Our American way of life is a dream. Our way of life can also be complicated, especially because of our broken federal tax system. It's an oppressive, complicated, and unfair system. Originally, taxes were levied to pay for the Civil War. Then, in 1913, the 16th Amendment was added, which gave Congress the power to create an income tax. Our nation, our citizens, have been under a tax tyranny ever since. Over the decades, the Internal Revenue Code has grown from 400 pages and a rate as low as 1% to today, with tens of thousands of pages of rules and regulations and tax rates as high as 37% plus Social Security and Medicare taxes. To complicate things, the tax rules are constantly changing with no way to plan for your financial future. Unfair tax rules are manipulated to benefit the rich, which often result in punishing the rest of us, including the poor. Very private and confidential information you give the government every year about your personal health, finances, and family is stored for decades, with no guarantee it won't be used by some intrusive and evil political agenda. Then, to comply with tax laws, annually, Americans pay up to $400 billion and spend more than 6.5 billion hours every year to comply, forcing us to keep painstakingly accurate records about everything you earn and spend. Lost productivity from tax compliance is 23 times larger than the annual budget of the IRS. The IRS tells us that over $1 trillion are unpaid every year by ordinary Americans. Even with an increased budget and thousands of more agents to conduct audits, they say they won't be able to reduce that gap by more than $100 billion per year. That's only 10% of the missing, unpaid tax dollars. And don't forget the illegal, underground economy, including millions of undocumented workers who rarely, if ever, pay taxes. Of course, this opens the door to a huge multi-billion-dollar tax gap every year. Then, of course, there's Congress, selling tax breaks to the highest special interest donors, instead of looking out for our best interests as taxpayers. We need to put an end to the lobbying madness. What about international trade? Our once competitive advantage in the world keeps shrinking. Why does the U.S. government subsidize imports and penalize U.S. exports, costing U.S. jobs? Makes no sense. Long term, this all adds up to incomprehensible mounting national debt. The fact is, with a better tax system, the U.S. economy could be the envy of the world. And without realizing it, we're paying a huge percentage of our purchases on hidden taxes embedded in the cost of all the goods and services we buy. And those goods and services are inflated from 15 to 25% because of the income tax, payroll tax, and other hidden taxes. Our broken system also penalizes savings and investment. It puts an even greater burden on job-creating industries, including small family businesses that employ nearly half of all workers in this country. It's time for a change. It's time we were liberated from the tax burdens and oppressive regulations that rule our lives. It's time for another tax revolution. Let's call it Tax Revolution 2.0. This is not tax reform, but a completely new system built from the ground up. Simple, visible, fair. Let's get rid of the old system and step into the future with real abundance and economic liberty for all. First, we need to create a new tax system that is not only simple but completely transparent. No more hidden taxes. A system that doesn't require individuals and businesses to file income tax returns ever again. No more IRS. This new system would replace the payroll tax, income tax, estate and gift taxes. No more withholding or deducting from paychecks. No tax on earnings, savings, or investments. You would keep 100% of your paycheck. Taxes would only be paid at the time of a retail purchase, and only on new goods and services, like the sales tax most states charge now. which means even the underground economy pays their fair share. Used goods would be tax-free. This would be a system that doesn't hurt the most vulnerable by exempting taxes for purchases up to the amount required for basic needs. Once again, Americans can feed, clothe, and house their family first rather than paying the government first. How does it work? Retailers in states would be paid to collect a national sales tax, which would replace the current federal tax system, including the personal and corporate income tax. This visible and fair tax would pay for all government services that the income and corporate taxes pay for now. With no income and payroll taxes, individuals, families, and businesses would thrive. Goods and services will cost less without our complicated, multi-layered tax system. Everyday Americans would be able to spend more time enjoying life and saving for the future without the tax burden we live under now. No more selling the family farm to pay the inheritance tax. Everyone above the poverty level would pay their fair share, including the wealthy, the underground economy, and undocumented workers. You and you alone would control how much tax you pay, by how much you spend and when you spend it. No paper trail to keep track of, just a clearly marked receipt showing how much tax you paid. Corporations and investors who have placed their businesses and funds offshore would repatriate their investments to take advantage of the best tax haven in the world. As you can imagine, the DC elites, lobbyists, and many members of Congress will resist this simple, fair system simply because it brings their hidden agendas and corrupt practices into the light for all to see. This approach will also encourage everyday citizens to rise up within their own communities and states, especially those with an income tax, to demand a fairer system in their own state, like the local sales tax that many states have now without an income tax, including two of the largest economies in the world, Florida and Texas. It's time to demand that Congress urgently and honestly explores a new and better federal tax system, one that eliminates the 16th Amendment and the IRS. If Congress won't act, we should vote to replace those members and candidates who don't agree or resist. It's time that Americans finally realize an end to tax tyranny and discover a new and stimulating financial freedom that comes with a simple, visible, and fair tax initiative. It's time for Tax Revolution 2.0. Don't just sit there. Do something. Now, contact your congressional representatives and tell them you want a brand new, simple, visible, and fair tax system now. To find your congressional contact information, go to congress.gov and enter your zip code in the search box. Email them, call them, write them, or do all three. But do it now, for the future of America and for future generations.